How many times have you come up with a magnificent plan, showed it off to all your friends and family, been sure it's the solution to all your problems, only to have it die of slow death over the next few weeks? Many times. We've all done it, so I'm not pointing fingers here. That's because coming up with a strategy is much easier than executing it. And this is where this book comes into play. The authors came up with 4 disciplines of execution. It's a system that makes achieving goals totally possible. The 4 principles are focus, leverage, engagement, and accountability. And if all this sounds super general, it is because it is. But before we shrug it off and move on to the next video, let me tell you the secret sauce. It is how you apply this principle that matters. And the 4DX framework does it in a very particular way. So let's get cracking. Number 1 is focus. But what does that even mean? Stay with me. In this very first step, we choose 3 goals to focus on. The author calls this wildly important goals, or WIGs. And these are medium to long-term goals that drive your life. Things like have $1.2 million invested in the stock market by the age of 40, or lose 5 kgs by June 2022, or get promoted to senior manager by the age of 30. These are basically any goals that you would consider wildly important for your life. And there's no right, there's no wrong here, only you know what drives you. These goals need to be challenging but attainable. And that's all fine and dandy, but how do you even come up with these goals in the first place? There are 4 steps to settling on a wildly important goal. First, it all starts by brainstorming. Ask yourself what kind of change would have the most impact on your life. Think of things that are not currently working, or the things that if they're made to work a little bit better would have a dramatic impact on your life. Now list them all out. Next, you need to assess, out of everything you listed, which 3 would have the overall highest impact. Now you need to test your potential goals, and there are 2 main considerations here. Is it measurable? Is there a way to keep score of your progress? If the answer is no, it is not a good candidate because a scoring system would help keep you motivated. And second, does it depend mainly on you? If you need to enlist outside help for more than 20% of your goal, it might be a challenge. When things depend on outside factors or other people, the challenge for you is even greater. And finally, state, or put simply, write it all down. Be specific and concise. Now let's look at an example. This is Mike. He's really excited to start executing on his plans, and aren't we all? And Mike takes out a piece of paper and lists all the goals that are important to him. These are things like become more healthy, save more money, get a dog, buy a dependable car, travel the world, and so on. When he assesses things and tests them as we talked about, he realizes that becoming more healthy or buying a dependable car will have the most impact on his life. But they're not very measurable, at least not yet. So let's transform them. Become more healthy becomes to lose 5 kgs by March 2022. And buy a dependable car becomes buy a Toyota RAV4 2 to 3 years old at a cost of no more than 30k by April 2022. Now we're talking. These are specific goals that depend solely on Mike and have a specific deadline and way to keep track of. WIGs done. Good job, Mike. Now comes leverage. In this discipline, you learn how to get from point A to point B. Imagine that your point A is a huge, heavy rock. No matter how hard you push against it, it's not gonna move. But if you apply a little lever, the rock starts to move. And not by a lot, but it does move and in the right direction. The second discipline is all about finding the right lever so you can move your goals from point A to point B. Points A and B are what the author calls lag measures. These are results. They're very important as they tell you if you've reached your goals or not. Have you lost the weight? Have you made enough money? And so on. The lever in the rock is what's called a lead measure. And lead measures quantify the actions that have the most impact on your goals. Now back to Mike for an example. His lag measures are right now he's 70 kgs, which is point A, and he wants to be 65, point B. His lead measures are the how he'll get to achieve those goals. And how does one lose weight? Less calories in and more exercise and physical activity. And this is a good time to mention that a good lead measure has 2 characteristics. First of all, it's predictive. A change in the lead measure must create a change in the lag measure. And 2, it's influenceable. You must be able to influence it without dependence on someone else. So if Mike is to restrict his calories, it will for sure lead to a faster weight loss. So it's predictive. And who controls how much and what Mike eats? Mike. So his calorie intake is also influenceable. So if Mike concentrates on the actions that most influence his goals become not an if, but a when. The less he eats and the more he exercises, the faster he'll get to point B. Now let's move on. Number 3 is engagement. And how do you best engage into a goal? By keeping a compelling scorecard. Humans are naturally wired to compete. We become highly motivated and engaged when there's an opportunity to win. Just look at every sport on the planet. The goal is always to win, to have a better score. The moment you take the score away, people stop trying so hard. So let's use this hardwired tendency to your advantage. And if you're like Mike, right now you might be thinking, that's so nice, but I want to lose weight and there's no one to compete with. True. So how about you compete with yourself? Come up with your own scorecard that forces you to act. A good scorecard has 3 requirements. First of all, it is simple. A more minimal scorecard is much easier to update. Think of any competitive sport. It usually has a simple score and time left in the game. It is a scorecard, not a spreadsheet, so keep it simple. A good scorecard is also visible. Put it next to your bed, on your bathroom mirror. Whatever it is in your case, you should not have to turn on your laptop or log into a site to update it. And finally, a good scorecard is quickly readable. Anyone looking at it should be able to tell within seconds if you're winning or losing. So in the case of Mike, he makes a simple scorecard that keeps track of his daily calories and time spent exercising and sticks it on his fridge. 3 disciplines down, 1 more to go. Give it up for Mike! Finally, the last one is accountability. Disciplines 1 to 3 are to set up the execution. In discipline 4 is where the action is. Without the accountability piece, the goal will eventually be overtaken by what the author calls the whirlwind, or just the day-to-day, menial, trivial tasks. Basically, accountability is what will ensure you're staying on course. And there are 2 parts to the accountability discipline that you need in order to make this step productive. Accountability needs to be precise and regularly scheduled. And here's how it works for Mike. He schedules 15 minutes every Sunday evening for an accountability session. The idea is to quickly review his last 7 days' progress and see things like what went well, what didn't go well, how can he do better next week. He narrows down the specific issues he faced and comes up with a precise solution to overcome the pitfalls. The continuous review and adjustment will make sure not only that he stays on course, but that he's continually improving. Not to mention the personal satisfaction of seeing his progress week after week will keep him happy and motivated. And if you followed along this far, you saw how Mike went from being caught in the whirlwind of day-to-day tasks to figuring out what his wildly important goals are. And then he took the most important step, the execution of the plan. After all, the book is called The 4 Disciplines of Execution, not the 4 steps of making a plan, feeling good about it, and never implement it. And right now, you're either super motivated to get started, or you're a little bit confused because this is a rather complex system. Either way, let's talk implementation. How do you take all of this fantastic information and actually apply it? What is the first step? Let's talk implementation in the next video. Click right here. I'll see you right there.